Another Anu Life Global Ministries Midday Affirmative. I will that you can hear me loud and clear. I am Ema Precious, and if you don't know, Ema stands is mother in Hebrew. Welcome into the space, Safta Arlene, Imanaya, Chief Yuya, Aki Zach, Sister Iris. And I think y'all know this is actually my first time hosting. So I guess when I have you all who want to enter the stage, I'll know somehow. I imagine I'll know what to do. But welcome. Um, Today's midday affirmative, as you can tell by the header, is we're going to talk about our words and our words being our bond or the idea of authentic bonds. If you're going to follow along with me, we'll also dig into a scriptural reference, and that's going to be Matthew 5:33 through 37. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so I'm just going to give a few minutes for everyone to get, into the space. And okay, I figured out how to in Beaker, so yay. So the first thing we are going to do is just, I don't know, I wanted to hear what you all thought about words, and the value of words, just some of the things that we'll dig into, the value of words, and how they become what we are bonded to, or how that becomes the bonding agent between us and another person. But before we do that, I actually wanted, since this is an affirmative, right, or an affirmation time, I wanted to open the space with, I wanted to open the space with a few things. We're going to listen to some music. We're going to do an affirmation. We're going to do quite a bit. So I'm excited. Chief, did you want to say anything before we opened up?
Sure, sure. I mean, words are great, right? But yeah, I mean, my word is born is bond. Sometimes you hear my word is born. You hear either one, but it's a good subject because a lot of times people see that idea of my word being my bond or word is born as being more of a colloquial thing. But word is bond back in the early days of the Negro church. That was like one of your earlier forms of amen. That's right. That was one of the terms that were used in the affirmation corner. They used to say word is bond. And eventually that spilled into other areas. You even hear it in rap songs in the 80s. I mean, you heard the song with Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, they would say word is bond, and then also it became word is born. But it just kind of goes to show the power of affirmation in terms of when someone is saying something and you bond yourself to that concept and the power of being that exists within word. Through words or through the logos, there are ideas that are able to come forth and establish creation. We're told even in the book of Ion, or Ion being light. Some people know it's the book of John, or on, ion, light. It's all the same thing. That in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So just that by itself gives you an idea that the Word has a capacity for creativity, of creative power. And so, yeah, I think this would be a great segment because we're speaking about speech and we're speaking about thought and all things that are that help to comprise the mind. And if the word was in the beginning, then that means the word has the possibility to yield perfect results of the power of the mind. And the word has the possibility to yield perfect results of the work that comes to thought, as long as we apply accurate reason, and we apply proper conceptions that are always present inside of the inherent infinite mind. So I think it's a great topic. So I'm looking forward to getting into it with you.
All right, give thanks. There we have it. That, in fact, that covers it. Those were all my notes. No.
We just warming up. Come on.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Okay, so it looks like we have a few more in this space. Give thanks for the, that opening acknowledgement and laying that foundation, Chief. Um, oh, welcome. Yes. All right, we have another on the panel. Um, Welcome, Dr. Arlene. Would you like to say anything before I jump in and open the space? I see you're unmuted.
Well, I'm excited as well about this topic. It's been something I've struggled through for a long time. Reading a Mind Heart Words, one of the first parts of the book states about, you know, that, and then take it back. I said, well, I didn't mean what I said. And it's impossible because Luke 6:45, it speaks about how for out of the overflow of the heart the mouth speaks. And I'm just excited because this is a topic that I know I myself confused by not being in control of my tongue and saying things and then not understanding that what was spoken has already gone forth. And as Chief mentioned, it has created something, a spirit. It has created, something that you just can't take back. So, how important it is that we don't speak without understanding and meaning what we're saying. So, I just wanted to add that. Give thanks.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, I'm excited because yes, 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 and yes. All right, so let's do this. Before I even, yes, I will say for sure we know that our words create things, right? But even before that, what gets us to those words are already being created inside of us, because that's where the words come from. But before we get into any of that, I just want to open this space and welcome you all first by honoring Yah as my heavenly architect, our heavenly architect, and also welcoming my master, Chief Yuya, who is our, ever present shepherd of Anu. So I just wanted to welcome you all to this space and welcome you to another episode of the Midday Affirmative, which we know happens every Yom Rishon, which is every first day or every Sunday at noon, right here. And there are different members of Anu who leads this discussion, but really facilitates because many, I'm sure, Akizak, Imanaya, Master Menelek. There are so many in the area below that I'm sure will enter into the speaking forum in a moment. So before we dig into the scripture, I wanted to open with a brief meditation. And the meditation, my intention behind doing that is to set the tone. So we know what we're speaking about today is our word, and how I'm going to say how our word um, becomes that bonding agent between us and everything else around us. And so there'll be a little music, and willfully you have either, a pretty good memory, or you have a pen and paper nearby because I'm going to ask that you write something down. So there's a little bit of work always. So let's get right into it. Um, And I'll share that the music is Chief Yuya's music. And so, oh, I had it queued up and now it's not there. So, anyway, it's a song that I often meditate to quite a bit. And here it is. So, just close your eyes And if you're seated, just plant your feet firmly on the ground. Sit as erect as possible. And just pay attention to your breath, breathing naturally. And now just begin to breathe in through your nose, very slowly. Breathe in until you fill your belly like a balloon. And hold and breathe out through your mouth. Again, through your nose. Inhale. Then breathe out. Allowing all the stress, all the worry, all the words, all the chatter to just let go. I'm going to do this 2 more times. Breathe in. Again. In. Hold. And as you exhale, just release any tension in your face, your neck, shoulders, back. And while you're in this relaxed state, I'd like you to think about the last oath you made, the last promise, the last time you gave your word. It could have been right before this call. What was the last commitment that you've made? What was the last bond that you offered? Just call it into your mind, and if you have a moment, when we're done with this, you're going to write it down. Okay. You should have something by now. So we're going to take one big cleansing breath. Breathe out really loud, deeply. And then as I turn the music down, we're going to come back to it, get back into it. Okay. Yeah, give thanks. So, as you open your eyes and think about the last oath, that last bond, that last, yes. Oh, us, I did, or us and I knew who are observing, well, we all should be observing Ramadan. Were you hungry yesterday, or did you take a snack? Are you committed to the bond of observing Ramadan, or are you observing the bonds that you've already made with yourself that are outside of your community? So just some things to think about. So I'm going to jump into Matthew 5:33 through 37. Of course, I'm reading the King James Version if you want to follow along. It says, "Again, ye have heard that it hath been said by them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, or Yah's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than that cometh of evil." So when I read that, I was like, what? And before I even get into it, it's kind of like, wait, what's being said here? Number one, what is yea, yea, and nay, nay? Yea, yea is yes, yes. And nay, nay is no, no. So I'll start from the bottom. So let your communication be yes or no, because anything more than that is coming from an evil place. So in that, I took it as, we're charged to not speaketh over much. So when we come with this long presupposition and even sometimes a preamble before we get to the point, it's almost as if we're trying to craft a story around our answer. And by doing that, we're actually, according to the scripture, committing an evil act. So I see we have quite a few people up here in the speaking forum. So I wanted to just open the space with that and ask you to, if you will, share the last oath, the last bond, the last time you gave your word, as Chief touched on, that word is bond moment, and whether you actually stuck with it. So we're going to start there.
I guess I can go on that. So the last time I gave my word, it was a few days ago, maybe about 2 3 days ago, and I was speaking to my uncle, and he asked if I could retrieve some old one of the band in my barber's band. My barber was a musician and a singer, and they had some old just band images and stuff like that. And he was getting ready. My uncle's getting ready to go visit his old trombone player when he was moving around with a horn section. And he said, could you find some of the images with him in it? You know, and I said I have to look through. I said I will do it. I have to look through mountains of stuff, to find these images, which date back to like the early '70s, late '60s, early '70s. So I said I would look, but even when I said it, I wasn't sure what that would look like. You know, um, I wasn't sure when I said it, but I said it. So it wasn't a strong word, but in the moment, I felt it was very important to do it. But yeah, that was the last time I gave my word, and I have not fulfilled it yet. Um, yeah, I haven't fulfilled it as of yet.
Come on with it, Akizak.
Greetings to you and all of those in Clubhouse land. The last time I gave my word, and I think I'm just gonna have to answer the question that you said it's with Ramadan. And what was I hungry? Am I hungry? Yes. But it's one of those that when you give your word, it is hard to look at the other people and quit on them. I guess it's hard to. For me, it's hard to show my face and know that I have given my word and said that they're all right. I'm a commit with everybody here, and then show up knowing that they are keeping that commitment. But meanwhile, I'm holding or harboring a lie underneath it, and it just starts to mess with my sleep. But I mean, before we get off into all of that, that is the last time that I have given my word. Um, it challenges me every day, but nonetheless, I have to honor my word. So yeah.
Right. And honoring your word, in both examples, is really not just saying it, but the act, right? So it's the doing. Um, and that's what the first scripture, Matthew 5:33, you know it's a reminder, right? So what's being said here is that you heard, like, this has been said before, you've heard this before in the old times, right? So it's kind of like, y'all know what it is. This is just a reiteration of what you should already know. You shouldn't you shouldn't make oaths. You shouldn't, put your word on something or promise something, but then not perform, not do the thing. Um, so we Anu make that commitment of Ramadan, observing the fast. And so it's like, yeah, don't say that if you're not going to do that, because you make a good point, Akizak. It is, whether you're in your own home, wherever you are in the world, um, you're then turning your back on everyone else who thinks that they're in communion with you, and going through this experience with you. So that's, yeah, it's about the doing. But welcome, Master Menelek and Abaras Kush and Imanaya to the space. Would y'all like to jump in?
Mine would just peace everybody. Mine would just be the same with Ramadan and that bond. I've been hungry um at the oddest times sometimes, times that I normally would snack. I did prepare, but even my preparation kind of went off track. So I think that's what could help me do better. But like Zach said, when you commit, when you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it or you're half doing it, it's hard to show your face in front of people. It's just like, oh my gosh, are they going to see me? Like, did I wipe this off my mouth? Did I clean my face? Did I brush my teeth? Is it crumbs on my shirt? Did I spill something? You don't have to worry about any of that because, if you are doing what you said you were going to do, it's nothing to, I guess, fear. But also the just the title of it made me think about that. I think it's called "A Woman's Word is Man's Bond." I don't remember, but I know, Chiki, I was on the beach because I remember the wind in the ocean blowing in the background. But the part about that for me was that um just as women in general, we have to be accountable for our words because the men that cover us, like, they have a responsibility for what we say, or they're held accountable also for the words we speak. So if we're reckless and don't keep our word, it can come back on not only us but our masters and households. So that's what I thought about.
Greetings.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, pardon me. Can I be heard?
Yes, you can, Abba. Welcome.
Greetings, greetings. Peace to all. Um, so I'll go ahead and share my last uh, bond and agreement was to my youngest son. Um, he he was sad. Um, yeah, he was having a sad moment, where um, he couldn't get his way, and I realized that it had been a while since, he had some time with me, some alone time with me, or just, just yeah, just had some constructive, time with his Abba, you know. So I made a promise to him, that I would take him roller skating since it's been a long while since we did so, and I bought him skates and bought the whole family skates, and you know it's been something that, and that's I kind of just been putting off, and I know they kind of forgotten about it, you know. Um, so I made a promise to him. I said, hey, I'm gonna take you roller skating, you know, and I plan to do so. I haven't done so yet. Some of the um, excuses and some of the um, yeah, some of my personal issues, like having work and having to organize certain things, and I have to do this, I have to do that, you know, and it's easy to kind of misprioritize things, but I know that it would just break my heart, You know what I mean? To have him having to bring it up, because he will bring it up. The thing about him, he will definitely bring it back up. You know, if I was to forget, um, but he has a way of bringing it up. You know, um, and just looking at the innocence, of the child. You know what I mean? When you promise them something, they're not in a position to where they can just go and make it happen themselves. So they're completely dependent on you following your word. So he's in a very vulnerable position as a child, you know, that hey, if my father promised me something, if he doesn't if he doesn't like follow through on, that promise, then, you know, there's very little he can do about it. So he's in a very vulnerable space, or a very vulnerable position, as a child. And, I don't want to let him down. I don't want to destroy that trust, you know, and destroy his innocence, of thinking that like it's okay to just make promises and not fulfill them, you know. So, I have every intention, and I have, the willpower to follow through on that intention, you know, and not just, have excuses of like, oh, I'm busy, I had this to do, that to do, because he's not going to understand any of that. All he's going to understand is just that, you know, um, Baba promised me something and it didn't come true, so there's a beauty in that innocence. And I know at some point, he'll get older and see that, what I mean, there's more to life, what I mean, and that there's, things happen. But, I want that to be a gradual state of realization, and not based on a terrible experience, or based on, a negative experience with his father. So just wanted to share that.
Right. Thank you, Abaras
For sure.
Kush. You know, it, I appreciate you touching on, the how we have to be, how responsible we have to be with our words, and illustrating that through that parent-child relationship. Um, because, I think you touched on the idea of vulnerability, right? And that, that it's setting the tone and the expectations for how our youth will traverse relating to us, but also connect that to bonding in the world. Were those words stuck to, and or were they not? And what does that mean about relating to others? Um, that's a really good point, because when we look at it from the that adult youth perspective or parent child perspective, but then we apply it to one another as sisters or brothers, um, or even connecting it to what Imanaya said about, a woman's words and her actions, even, because that's a part of it. Um, Goes back to her master or her head. It's like, yeah, you there's recompense, and it doesn't just come just to you. It kind of comes right on down the line. Um, and it makes me think about, what's being said here in this scripture. It's like, swear not at all, right? So Matthew 5:34 says, but I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is Yah's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool. So it's like, in no place should we endeavor to give our word and not be about doing that thing, or to make oaths, which, from my studies in this context, the oath was almost like doing these things in public so as to appear, to be the most righteous, or to so as to appear to be the most mystical, or to be able to utter these words that perhaps others should not and would not. but then you're not really walking that walk, like you're not delivering, similar to your example, like I am, I got the skates, we are going to do these things, we are going to do this thing. It's like, are we delivering on our word in every moment? uh yeah. And again, I'll just talk, but please just jump right on in. Come on, I see you, South Darlene.
As I was listening to Abba Rashkush, I realized mine is very similar. I told my granddaughter just this dawning, I haven't been present within the house, because I had some health things going on, but she saw me come downstairs this dawning and she said, Granny, where have you been? I said, oh, I've been, in my room. But she said, will you spend time with me today? And right away, I looked at the innocence in her face. I said, later, maybe after your nap, because Granny has things to do. And although I didn't make a promise, um, I gave my word. And in this conversation, not just today, but I realized that what I say, I need to follow through on, or I shouldn't say it. And although I responded to her out of just looking at her and the eagerness and the happiness she had to see me, I said, yeah. I said, maybe after your nap, but Granny's got things to do this dawning. So she said, okay. She said, after my nap, you'll spend time with me. And such a simple request, you know. And I thought about, I got all these things to do today. My mind is finally clear. I can, get back to some things I haven't done this strong. But I realize, and even more so in this space, that I have to make time to do that. Just like Abba was saying, there's an innocence there. And I've heard her say at 3 years old to her mother and father, but you said. So it's very clear that it's registering in that young mind. When someone says something, she expects it to happen. And, just listening to what he was sharing, it just made it more clear that yes, I have to find time to spend with her. And sometimes that's just reading a book or allowing her to watch a cartoon where she likes me to interpret, well, what are they talking about? Well, what is that? You know, and that time is important to her. So it's important that everything that comes forth out of my mouth, even if I'm not saying, well, if I say I will do it, I need to do it. And I just wanted to share that because that was the last oath I made, is saying to her, yes, I will spend time with you today. So I just wanted to share that.
Peace. I'll jump in as well. Give thanks for that, Soft Darling and Abu Raskus. Um, one of the last commitments I've made was actually to myself. And, um, thinking on this topic that you brought up today, my precious, it makes me think of what we spoke about a few strongs ago about caring too much and some of the commitments that we agree to that we don't necessarily want to. My last commitment was actually to myself in terms of a career choice on what I needed to do in order to follow through with that career choice in terms of getting my resume, making my resume stronger, getting a portfolio together. And when you brought it up, it made me think of how readily and how easily we accept commitments to other people or for other people, but we neglect like the word, like the promises that we make ourselves or the commitments that we make silently. It's like if no one else heard me, then I can sort of shift things around. But if it's loud or if someone else said it, like I know that if someone else asked me to do something like and I say yes, I pretty much have no choice but to do it. But when you make a quiet commitment, sometimes those are the hardest to keep. So that's what came to mind when you brought this topic up. So give thanks for that as well.
Oh,
Peace to everyone.
thank you for that, Master Menelek. I know you call them the quiet commitments, but as I was listening to you and looking at the scripture, I'm like, it's so true. The commitments that we make to ourselves are the ones that we're the bonds. I'm going to call it what it is. I'm going to keep calling it bonds. Are the bonds that we so readily and easily break. But those bonds are the ones that, in the moment, I'm realizing are the most important. Those are the bonds that we are not making by ourselves with ourselves. We're making with Yah. Or dare I even begin to imagine that we're actually just communicating or acknowledging an already established commitment. An established commitment. So this is a charge that is carved into the tablet that is Master Menelek Ima Precious, that we quietly say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this thing. Yeah, okay, yes, I'm going to make this shift. We don't realize that's, and I see you, Albert Kush, no problem. That's actually that's bringing us closer to purpose, right? That's that moment. But we don't move in those moments. And so, yeah, they may seem quiet and small, but in the moment I'm like, wait, those may be the major life-changing moves that we should be making. So come on in, Abba Kush.
Yes, indeed. I was just about to jump in and say something along those lines. But to expand on what you said is like, I had the same thought when Master Menelek was speaking of, that connection to Yah, what I mean, when we um make those promises and break them, the disconnection that we are ensuing, with the Most High, you know, and even to tie it in with others. And this is, and my thoughts why, it's important to always be, as truthful, always walk with the light, with the, always walking within light, and living in truth is that before you tell a lie to someone else, you first have to lie to yourself. So even when we're making those promises to others, there's still a lie present within ourself, in order to do so. So we're still disconnecting, ourselves from Yah when we tell lies to our sister, our brother, you know, um, when we tell it to ourselves, it's still an unrighteous act. You know what I mean? And not saying that, not correcting any of you others, but just, adding on, that there's a connection, what I mean, um, that a lot of us, a lot of times, you know, we forget, or we, you know, accidentally on purpose forget, you know. We disregard, or ignore that, Yah is always watching, you know, and that there's always like I heard Chief say he has unlimited resources to see everything, you know. So, there's a presence always there to make certain, you know, hey, are you doing the right thing? And we know because we have we have we have that discernment, we have that cognition of when we are telling a lie, you know. And even when we're disconnected from that, we have our brothers and sisters, other persons of accountability to point it out, like, hey, you need to look further into that because that doesn't ring truth, you know. So, it's yeah, that was just something I wanted to share.
Thank you, Abba Kush. Oh, I see Miss Sequoia unmuted. Feel free to jump in. And I also wanted to welcome uh, Miss Iris McCabe. I see you. So if you want to unmute and jump in, feel free to do that as well. Welcome. You, Miss Sequoia, did you want to? Yep.
Can peace, everyone. Give thanks, for the topic, precious and the meditation. Um, one, yes, I have given my word. The last time I done it was maybe about a year ago, and I gave my word that I would start a new business endeavor, and I just kept pushing the date back, and so I haven't honored that as of yet. And I do find that it's like a that you feel haunted by it, like when you promise to do things and you don't do it. And I can say, in my life, um, it got to a certain point where it just goes back to like the accountability of not wanting to give your word and your promises because you don't want to be held responsible for not doing something. And it just reminds me of like when people say like, "Oh, you're the type of person that's a lot of talk, no action," you know. And then I like hear sayings of like, when you're really doing something, you don't talk a lot about it, and it just like reminds me of the importance of having witnesses. We have our community. It reminds me of like, um, a notary, like when you are notarizing a document, like you're witnessing and you're saying like, okay, this act that this person is doing is true and authentic, and I'm seeing it. And so with our community, we have people and we have members that look at us and can see, as witnesses, if we're honoring our word or not. And they can be like, you're not being truthful, you didn't really do that, or what you're saying is not right and exact, and things like that. So that's what immediately came to my mind. So, give thanks.
Give thanks. And Iris, feel free to jump in, Sister Iris.
Thank you, and yeah, thank you for the space. And I really enjoyed the meditation. I was really calm, but as soon as you asked the question, I got tears in my eyes. I got really tears in my eyes because I was thinking, oh my God, you give the promise to yourself to love yourself. And it was actually today when I give myself the promise, because my friend from Holland came to visit me on the weekend, and we had really, really strong, deep, beautiful talks, conversations, and yes, I, I felt good in the moment I promised myself, but I also scared. I thought, can I keep this promise? And it's to myself. I didn't promise to her. I promised it to myself, and whew, it's still like my heart is really beating. Sorry, and I will do my best. This is what I owe myself actually, and yeah, this was my last promise. Thank you for the space.
Thank you so much for sharing that. When I hear you say that your promise to yourself was to love yourself in a moment of enjoying, company, having someone come to visit, and just the beauty of creating a loving space for someone else perhaps reminded you to love yourself more, to do that for yourself more. So I know you said that you'll try. And I wonder if you pick a small thing, maybe just a meditation, maybe just coming back to the meditation here, and listening just to that one little snippet, and see what comes. Like that's really, really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Um, to go back to what Abaras Kush and Ima Sequoia touched on, they touched on a piece about community, the people around you or your community, um, acknowledging that yes, you are, or you are, or no, you are not, sticking to your word, or meeting meeting your commitments. And I too thought of when I thought of this, thought about this topic and this theme. Um, for those of you who don't know, I'm like born and raised in Brooklyn, and in the growing up there in the 80s and yeah, the 80s and early 90s, I had lots of older cousins who knew people or were in fact 5 percenters, or practiced and studied 120. And so hearing things like what Chief referenced earlier, word is bond, or my word is my bond, but more the colloquialism was truly word is bond. And whenever, even at 11, 12, whenever I heard my older cousins and their, friends talking, no matter how outlandish the story, sounded, if what followed was word is bond, within that community, there was an understanding that what that person was saying in that moment was no longer being questioned. It was truth, because that was a part of their cultural imperative. It that set the standard for, no, I'm not lying. They didn't say, I swear to God, or I promise you, or on my mama, or anything, any of those, because I think we've all used and heard those, but it was word is bond, which, when you think about it, you're bonding yourself to those words. You're bonding everything that we hold as true and right onto those words. And it's like, when you think about it, it's like, wow, that's more than I solemnly swear. That's more than, or even, yeah, I would say, yeah, that's just so much more of a commitment. One, because we're standing on the same square, like we are abiding in the same things. And again, that's a lot of what I received from that Matthew 5:33 and 37. It's the expectation that if you're living the way you're swearing to live, it's observable in the things that you're doing. And if it isn't, you're going to be called out, because by calling on, or like swearing on, even your own head, how valuable is that when you don't make your hair grow? You can't make it black. I mean, you could dye it, right? But you can't just by your words change your hair color, which is how I was kind of, and maybe I'm completely off, but that's how I was reading this. Like, you can't make your hair white or black. You can't do any of that. So why swear on your head, or put your hand to your head, or whatever you would do in that instance? Why not just be about the thing? Like Ema Sequoia said, it's, those that are doing don't often talk about what they're doing, because they're actually busy doing those things. And again, I'm definitely speaking to fully to myself, because there are many promises. Shoot, I don't want to go with the Ramadan promise. You know what? I'm gonna go with this dawning's promise. I always get nervous before doing these sort of things, going live, or having to share publicly. And then I begin to tell everyone how nervous I am. I'm really nervous. I really don't like doing this. And it wasn't this daunting, but over the strong end, I said, what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop saying that. What if I just stop saying that I'm nervous? What if I just, whatever time I get to prepare, I trust that what I'm preparing and what I'm being prepared to do will be delivered as it's supposed to? What if I just went with that? And so I did, and it worked out. And like Sister Iris, I was actually, pushed to tears and just gratitude. Like, wait, it did just work out. All I had to do was bond myself to those words, and not look back. So, yes.
Yeah, that
Keep
to add on to the, oh, Did Naya just unmute?
She did. Real quick,
She
real
did,
quick.
yeah, because you know she'll try to play it off. I'm muting back.
I did because what Emo Precious just said, like that's me. Y'all know I won't say anything. I won't speak up. I get called out. I get pushed to the front, and I don't like it. So I said, in an effort to try and stop being called out, let me take the initiative and push the button as soon as I go in the space, so that when thoughts do come up, I can just, okay, let me unmute. Okay, let me say something. Voice shaking, quavering. I'm sweating bullets, but I'm talking and I'm sharing. And now I'm going back on mute.
That was a mini share. That wasn't even. That was like an intro, and you didn't even get to the main part. But okay. But I know what you mean as far as that nervousness, and because it's a new world in that sense. Kind of being thrust in front of everyone, and sometimes everyone feels like they have to have something clever to say as well, which it's not. It's just not the case. You know, I wanted to correct too my bond, my word. No, my last word was actually this dawning to Sister Precious because I checked in with her, not even this dawning, no, an hour ago. I checked in. I said, "Are you straight? You cool for noon?" She said yes, and we went over what she was going to talk about. And then I told her, I said, "Well, I'll make sure that I'll show up so that I can be present in the beginning in case you get tripped up a little bit or there's any dead kind of air or whatever. I'll jump in and just kind of make sure that you're cool. I'll support." So that was actually the last time I gave my word. So I'm gonna erase the other one with my uncle. The last time I gave my word was to say that I would sign into this call and be present. But what I wanted to share too, as far as like this is vibing off of Sister Arlene, Rosh Kush, you know, and as well as Iris and some of what you shared in terms of the relationship with yourself and the relationship with others. It is in the Lost Found Muslim lessons, the 1 through 14, that lesson 11 is, have you not heard, your word shall be bond regardless of whom or what? Yes, my word is bond and bond is life and will give my life before my word shall fail. Right? So I have that probably, I have it memorized and probably engraved. And if you could crack my brain open, that would be something that would be written inside of my brain. Right? Actually, I'll say it slower too. Have you not heard, your word shall be bond, regardless of whom or what? Yes, my word is bond, and bond is life, and will give my life before my word shall fail. Okay. When I was younger, moving around with the nation of gods and earths, when we used to be in the park, wherever, working out, different environments, and we'd be reciting the lessons while we're doing pull-ups, while we're doing dips, while we're doing push-ups, different things like that. And that was one that used to give me a lot of energy whenever we used to work out. I'd feel my arms getting sore, my back was burning. Just reciting that one was so important for me. It also just felt, it always felt so militaristic, but um, the concept of like I would give my life before I would let my word fail. And that was always important to me because at that time I was moving around with some other young men like myself, and we were, our word that we gave to each other was life and death, life or death. Making sure that we looked out for each other, we protected each other's interests, we were concerned about each other's welfare. So if I say that, or we might, like back then we say, I got your back. But if I said, hey, don't worry, I'm going to look out for you, or we're going to do this together, or whatever, that was an important thing because it could really mean life or death for someone. So that was always a very important piece for me. But also, I wanted to share that even off the basis of that message, like I said, if you read Ion 1 and 1, and those numbers are important. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The last part is critical in what we're speaking about in terms of these bonds that the word makes. And bond, from a legal perspective, it could be an instrument of payment. When there's a bond, like if you have a bond on you, it's something that has to be paid. But it's also related to the word bind as well. Bond and bind means to like hold something or to lock it in or to make it your captive. But you had bond also, which was just like what you were linked to, what you were tied to. If you were put into a bond, where you get the word husband or husband, the person who's in charge of the husbandman or the householder, the master of the house, the one who's responsible for maintaining the bond, respecting the bond and keeping the value of the bond, right? But again, the last part of John 1 1 is, and the word was God, right? So if I say my word is bond, then I'm saying my God is my bond. So the moment that I use my word, I am now invoking my God. So like sometimes we'll say something like or really we'll say, but the Quran will teach, if it's the will of Allah, you know inshallah. You hear people say like, yeah, maybe I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. you know and that basically means, or inshallah, which is really, but inshallah means like, if Allah wills it, then I will do this thing, right? And it's such a tricky thing to say if you are not sincere in what you're saying. Because if I say, yeah, I will help you come and move tomorrow, or I will come by and drive my car by and give your car a jump, your battery's dead, inshallah. So that means now I have invoked the power of my God to fulfill my word. And let's say I don't want to do that thing. I don't have any plans on doing that, but I have now invoked my God because the word is God. You see, so now I'm in conflict with my Creator. I'm in conflict with the Most High, and what happens here is that there's something that the Most High, the Creator of all the worlds, cannot do, and the one thing that is impossible for the Creator of all the worlds to do is to lie. The Creator cannot go against its own world, its own word. So that science of never breaking a promise, of maintaining the truth, or the word being bond and the bond being life and giving life before my word shall fail. You know, if we recognize that we're made in the image and the likeness of of the Most High, then of course our striving and our work should always be to be like the Most High. And it is through our word, when we say word is bond, we are creating contracts. Because even if we look at the messianic energy or the Christ consciousness, for us it's all words. We don't live in an age where we're saying like, okay, yeah, I walked down to the sea and went fishing with Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, or we went to, his father's house or his mother's house, and we went and we had some oxtails and rice, with Yehoshua ben Pantera. We're not living in that time. So everything that we are experiencing from the Christ consciousness is coming by words. Whether we're reading a scripture, whether we're reading cuneiform on a Sumerian tablet, whether we're reading Akkadian, or Hebrew, or whatever, wherever we're getting it, if we're reading the Quran and we're reading about the lives of the prophets and how they strove to make their word bond and strove to maintain that Christ consciousness, or we're learning about the lies of the devil. The devil promises everything and fails to perform that promise after the promise is given. You see, so in that moment that we fail to perform our promise, we become devil. In the moment that we strive to make our word bond and align ourselves with the will of Allah, or Ishallah, the will of the Creator, then we become more like our Creator. So words and oaths are very important because they create like a vow. If you think about even within a marriage, the most powerful concept of a marriage is not a marriage vow. Some people don't even write their own vows when they get married. They don't even write them. But what's most important is a marriage contract. And a contract is an agreement between parties, you see. So when you have a contractual agreement, it only means something if both parties live up to that agreement. And if both parties don't live up to that agreement, then the agreement can be wiped away. The agreement can be destroyed, right? So if the same thing with your children or with yourself, if you make a promise to your child or you make an agreement or a bond, because your word is your bond, and a bond is an agreement. If you make a contract with your child, or you make a contract with yourself, and you break that contract by not living up to it, then you now have destroyed the very nature of the dynamic relationship between you two. It is no longer father and son anymore. It is no longer mother and child anymore, or it is no longer the dynamic of I and me, when we're talking about a relationship with yourself. The moment you break your word, you have broken the essence and the meaning of your God, because your word is God and your word is your contract. So that's just something I wanted to throw into the mix of the cipher.
Hmm. Give thanks, Chief. Um, huh. Well, when you were speaking that last part about the broken bond, um, and losing something. So I got like a quick visual of like, when you break something, and each time you break it, let's say you just continually break and it breaks in that same spot. Each time you lose a little bit, and it it is less likely that you're able to reconnect those two pieces, because even if it's small particles, right? Like, I don't know, you're trying to glue some wood back together. Each time you lose, each time it breaks, it's like something is lost in that process that almost can't be, it sounds like you're saying, it can't be regained. And so it makes it even more important that we not break those bonds. With
Yeah, if
that,
you're uh-oh.
mhm. No, go ahead.
If you're fortunate, you may have the possibility to rebirth it. But the moment you allow your word to fail, then death comes to that contract. Death is a failing of your word. You see, so, you know, can there be life after death? Possibly, but consider what happens in a state of infidelity within a marriage. What happens inside of that marriage, or when credibility is lost inside a marriage, and how difficult it is. And we have to remember that we're journeying in union with the Most High and with our mate. So when that word fails, or we renege on our contract, it's like writing a bad check. If you write a bad check, and you keep doing it, eventually the bank is going to close your account, right? Or if you sign contracts and you willfully and knowingly neglect to live up to the terms of that contract, like you're making bills and you don't pay those bills, then your account gets closed. Sometimes your account gets closed and they won't even let you open a new one. You have to put it in someone else's name. So it's like, now that bridge has been burnt, because there's a record that's being kept of me being untrustworthy. So when people have no confidence in the word that you give, it breaks up the possibility of a sound relationship, or building a sound relationship. That's why we have one of the attributes of Allah is alamin, and alamin means the faithful, to be faithful, like amin, but alamin, or to be trustworthy, and this is one of the attributes that we are called to live for, if we are in submission to the Most High, as even the concept of being a Muslim, applies, or implies, or explicitly states, excuse me. But being in submission means that we cannot be hypocrites, because every word that we're also given is tested. Just like in a marriage, your oath is tested. Your contract is always tested. The Quran says in Surah 29, it's, do men think that we will be left alone, saying we believe and will not be tested? No, I'm sorry, and will not be tried. Indeed, we tried those before them, and Allah will certainly know those who are true and will know those who are liars. You see, so the moment you step in the ring and say that I believe, or say that I am a faithful adherent, or say I create this contract with you, you are going to be tried. That's the whole point, you know.
Right. And so through those trials is how you prove yourself. Oh no, come on in, Safta Arlene. And for those that don't know Safta, it's like acknowledging, an elder, grandmother. And then also welcome to the space, Rahim, Brother Rahim, and Abba Cruz. If you want to jump in, feel free.
You
Uh,
know, so go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Safta Arlene.
Oh,
He's going to
mm.
mute up for a minute. Hmm.
As I'm listening to all the different ways that, especially what Chief just shared about breaking that contract, because you know, in my past, I've always thought it important that I keep my word with other people, and yet I've failed to keep my word with myself. As Master Menelek talked about, those soft, commitments where I said, okay, I'm going to spend the whole week just studying and building, and then I will allow commitments to others to trump my commitment to myself, which leaves me at a deficit because again, I've already broken that contract to be and do what I've been called to be and do, and what it takes to get there. So it's almost like using my commitments to others, or okay, I told you I'm going to do this for you, so now I don't have time to do what I was going to do for myself, But those things are so important because I'm left where I'm just serving, but I'm serving out of um, I don't know the word to use, an emptiness. I'm not feeling myself and living up to the commitment to do what I've been called to do to build on that relationship with my community and with the Most High. So there's a lot that's being said that I'm exploring because I'm like, okay, so this is why I'm coming up short over there. I broke the contract with myself to do this task. And in order to do this task, I have to commit to study time, for example. I have to commit to breaking these words down. But yet now I've made another commitment over here to somebody else. So since they're looking at me, I need to do what I promised to do for them. And the balance is for me right now. I'm like, whoa, I'm lost in it. But it gives me that if I can't keep a commitment and a word that I give to myself, you know, it makes it hasn't made it harder, but at this point it's like it's like making that commitment to love yourself. What comes first. So I just wanted to share that.
I wanted to comment on that as well, Safta, and I know Raheem is coming next, but you also have to make sure, and this is for everybody, that whatever commitment you're making makes sense. It's not just the value of keeping your word, because again, to understand that the word is God, and word is bond, right? So the word has a creative capacity beyond anything imaginable. That's the whole point of word. It is what creates all of the wonders of creation, right? So if we establish some sort of what we call word, we establish a reality based on a lie, The lie produces nothing within the wonder of creation. The lie produces something, but it doesn't exist inside of creation. It exists outside of creation, because the word is truth, and the truth is God, and God is a contract. God is a bond. That's why it's important when someone says, "Do you believe in God?" It's important to ask them, which God are you referring to? Because we all have contracted with different gods, or many of us have contracted with different gods, until we establish the God of our nation and of our people, right? You say, okay, now that's the one that I've contracted with. But you may promise Ema Arlene, like, hey, I'm going to go do this or babysit or do whatever. But if it's not really what you want to do, or I can't say want to do, because it's desire that actually leads us away from our contracts. Just like in a marriage, typically infidelity comes because of desire. But if it's something that you're not supposed to be doing, no matter how honorable it seems, then that means you have just breathed, you've breathed a lie, as opposed to breathing life through truth. You see, so it's important, even when you're seeking to fulfill your word, to understand that our desires fulfill our word. I mean, our desires lead us away from fulfilling our word. So I would say, just in response to that, make sure that when you're saying, hey, I gave my word to do this, before you give your word, it's important to check in and be in sync with the Creator. The Quran tells us that Allah wouldn't even consider us if we didn't pray. So that's a particular entity, that's a deity. Allah, or Ilah, is Elah in our Hebrew, right? Not Yahuwah. These are two different entities. So if someone tells you, well, Allah just means God, that doesn't make sense. Even etymologically, it doesn't make any sense. So no, we're talking about different entity. There's more than one God out here. But this particular God of Ilah, or Allah, or Elah, says, if you don't pray, I don't even know who you are. I'm not even thinking about you like that if you're not praying. So it is through the prayer that we lock in and we sink into the truth. Once we sink into the truth, then we sink into our potential to breathe life and to manifest creation. And the manifestation of creation only comes through word, but everything that comes out of our mouth is not word. So you have word and then you have lie. They're two different things, but they could sound the same. So I could say, I'm going to the store tomorrow. And then I can say, I'm going to the store tomorrow. And somebody might say, well, those are all words. No, one of them is the word and one of them is a lie, depending on the context. So it's important that you cue into, is this really where I'm at? Am I really addressing where I want to be from the humbleness of my heart? Because it's through the humbleness of my heart that now I produce this truth. And I have to bow to the truth that I produce and act accordingly to it. That's why I said about Elah, or Elah. Elah can't lie, because once Elah brings the word forth, then it cannot break its word. You see, and we've been created from said word. So it's incumbent upon you to form a good relationship with yourself, or to form a good relationship with others, to recognize the best way to do that is to tune into the truth of what the oath should be first. No is okay. If it's the truth. Are we going to do this? No, we're not going to do that. It's not going to happen, right? Because that's how you produce reality, through truthful word, as opposed to creating demons which live outside of reality. Demons live within the astral planes because they can't manifest into the creator's reality. But we can create demons through lie. Yeah. Brother Raheem, it's all you.
Greetings everybody. You actually kind of answered what I was kind of gonna ask, but I'm still. My question was gonna be, you were speaking about like being a hypocrite, and brother Raskush was speaking about like as like a father and promising kids stuff. Um, Me as a child, and obviously as like a son and a grandson and a sibling, where does that leave how I view my contracts with like say my mother or my father or my grandparents or my siblings, when I feel that not only I have broken my bonds but so has they've broken their side, and you feel that you could write up a new contract, but you don't know how to go about that?
Right. That's a great question. Um, First off, once you get to a point where you feel like contracts have been broken, you can only feeling is okay, but you have to know the contract has been broken through proper review, right? So what are the terms of that contract? So, for instance, I may have a certain contract with my father or my mother, and then I may watch something on TV and I may see how that parent moves with their child. And through the saturation of media into my psyche, I may start believing this is what a family's supposed to be. This is how a father is supposed to behave. This is how a mother is supposed to behave without really understanding the terms of my original contract. That may not be my contract. So the first thing you want to do is look at the terms of your contract. Now, I know what comes after that. It's, well, how would I know the terms of my contract? Anybody ever showed it to me, right? Um, well, that's usually when you know it's time to create a new one. And you're at the age now, right? I mean, you're 18. So you're not to say that makes you a man at 18, but I mean, I'm just saying because anything after 14, 15, you're ready to, after 14, 15, your contract should have changed anyway because around 14, 15, you're a man now. So now, okay, I can't function with, I mean, your sister's the same age, obviously, but you have younger siblings, and your pops, your mother. Like, okay, now we got to move different because you have to look at what your culture dictates for you at that age. So maybe within your culture at 14, 15, it's like, all right, well, I'm 14, I'm 15, I should have my own place, or I should be making my own money, or I should be contributing to the homestead based upon the terms of what I've contracted into the community. So that means now, whatever contract I had, maybe I had only a contract from birth up to the age 13 or the age 12. And then once I went through puberty, my contract changes now. But maybe I wasn't handed a new contract. Maybe it's upon me now as a man to help to design that. And you do that by looking at your culture. You know, like I know with people in my family, there's certain things that they don't do around me, right? And it's not because they're scared of me, anything like that, but they just know he's not into that, he's not with that. Just it's that's not him, and it's been that way since I was a teenager. I remember telling people around my family like, "Yo, don't use profanity around me. I don't like it." And telling like my aunties and my uncles that these, people are old enough. They could have just yoked me up if they wanted, but they respect it. Like, no, he's standing on something. So where did I get that from? I got that from the culture that I was carrying at that time. That this is my culture. So you have to that's where you pull the terms of your contract from. You don't just pull it from the air or like, um I would suggest you don't pull it from social paradigm, right? Because social paradigm will say, well, mother's supposed to be this and the father's supposed to be this, and then we throw stupid things in there. Well, the mother's always gonna be my baby. We say little stupid, very destructive things like that, and that's considered to be cute within the larger social paradigm. Whereas that's what cripples a person. So I would say your contract should be based upon the word, and the word comes from your creator. And then you move from there. If you're striving to be like your creator, like I just gave you one attribute, alamin. So if alamin is an attribute of the faithful and the trustworthy, and I'm striving to be alamin, or I'm striving to be the divine trustworthy or the divine faithful, what does that mean for the people around me? If they now establish stumbling blocks to me being faithful or stumbling blocks to me being trustworthy, then that helps me to shape out what the contract should be based upon what I'm striving for and expanding towards as a man. And for any woman listening, it functions the same way. There are still attributes that you may be striving towards, but your striving is different. And whereas Raheem as a man is striving to expand outward into positivity, you're striving to learn more about the dark and to go deeper into that, right? So a contract that you may make with someone or potential mate is that I need to have quiet time. I need to have meditation time. I need to have prayer time where I can go within and study myself because as a woman and as something that is still learning how to marshal the force of my own being in order to make my word bond, I have to have that space to go inside. And it's just like as a young man, you're learning to marshal that force to make your word bond, but you're marshaling that force by learning how to strive to go outward, learning how to be more of Allah. And the woman is learning how to be what created Allah. You know, that triple stage darkness that Allah emerged from, which requires something different. So that's just an example, right? But you have to go by, or I would suggest you go by the characteristics of your culture, and you establish your contracts based on that structure or that framework.
Give thanks, Chief, for that. And thank you, Brother Raheem, for the question. Um, I thought I saw someone else on mute, but oh,
Yeah.
come on. Peace, Abba Cruz.
Hey, bless the love, bless the love. Yeah, I saw Akiza come off of mute just so I'll go after him.
All right, let me get up in this piece. Then I already spoke though, so go ahead, man. I'll go after you, brother.
Yeah, man, full joy, man. Appreciate love, man. Yeah, man. So I came in on the tail end of some of the first parts of the conversation, so I'll answer one of the first questions that I was able to capture, which was the last time I gave my word. So the last time I gave my word would have been actually yesterday, during our Shabbat Cipher, as I knew. I gave my word directly to our Chief Jag and Chief Yu and to the community that I will step into the role of being a structured and strong elder man the way I should be, and continually aspiring to be even higher. And as far as the direct communication this afternoon and dialogue rather about bonds, one of the things I think about is the other things that we're bond to. So I put myself into the thought space of what Safta Alain was mentioning about, you know, not being able to grab it on certain respects. So when we think about Hebrew, Hebrew means to cross over, so it's a choosing. So we think about Abraham being that first Hebrew. He came from a completely different mindset and philosophy as far as the observation of the one true God compared to what it was that he was seeking. And when we think about Raheem's question just now, and how I bring it all together is, we may have come up, like Chief has mentioned us before, we got a hookup when we came. So we may be born into families and systems and cultures. There may be slums, there may be ghettos, that may be vagabonds, if you may. Those bonds may have, we may have outgrown from them. It may not mean that our mothers may not have been nurturing, but do we want to be bond or bounded to things that really are more detrimental to what our end result is? Do we want to be bound to things like, for instance, here in the Caribbean, we're subjugated nationally to the Queen until we become a republic, if we're a Commonwealth country? So, that's a popular discussion of recent, not just in the Caribbean, but otherwise, people looking at, they call it different levels of sovereignty and so on. So we also think about it from those standpoints. Well, do we want to be bound and bond to Babylon and to be subjugated to it? So now this is where your community becomes strong, because if you think about the nation of gods and earths, my word is my bond, a word is my bond, is understood amongst your Aalites. So whereas people who live down the street from you in Brooklyn, because they're not of the nation of gods and earths, or deal with the 120 studies, they're going to require a written contract from you, because the bond that they have with you is different, even though you're perhaps in the same area, right? And possibly even in the same building in some cases. So this really goes to what you're actually tethered to. So you want to analyze the bonds and start to, in some cases, simplify the things that you're already bound to and bound to prior to you structuring your new bonds. And for me, this is where that no becomes important that Chief mentioned just now. Okay, while I'm understanding the dynamics of what I'm able to be bound to, bound to rather, so that I can be efficient in making sure that my word can be my bond. Perhaps I haven't learned what it takes to actually develop my word, and this is where, possibly coming up in some of those hodgepodge systems of concern, prove their benefits, because there's light and dark moving in every aspect, right? So perhaps knowing what it is to have words being broken to us, know what it is to possibly not grow up with a father, or maybe have a mother who may not have been, X, Y, or Z based on what our viewpoint may have been. Maybe perhaps that there is what allows, and I'm saying maybe very loosely, of course, it's relative. Those things which tend to be common conversations in certain respects, depending on where you're from, you know, those things are what assist you in being able to have a stronger bond with the thing that you're really looking for. In our solutions for dysfunctional family, one of the things that we're taught is when it comes to culture, the dominant culture will always fight for the footing or to trump the other. So this is where you want to be bound and bond to ALIKes. This is where your 120 studies will come back full circle now. No pun in this case. So looking at what you're bound and bond to before you start creating other bonds is also very important. So what I want to be bound to somebody as an ALIKE, knowing that I'm looking to be as grounded and as culturally inspired, moving to develop the eye of the Almighty and walk as a reflection of the Almighty on this earth with somebody who possibly still has hangups in the Babylonian sphere, the Babylonian mindset. They still consume the pork. Do I want those people around my children? Or even so, if I'm looking to be born and model somebody like our Chief Chegna Chief or the other brothers who will be in this clubhouse now, like Ras Kush and Akizak and Master Menelik and the Zaya and so on, Akizaya, you know, do I qualify myself to be born to them? Can I be qualified as an heir? You see, so looking at what you're born to initially and making sure that you shake those bonds. What contracts do I have with these other gods? Do I still worship a god of vanity? Do I still worship a god of gluttony and envy? Now moving with the god of circumspection. You know, that god of circumspection has no room to facilitate these other gods that are looking to come. So my room of idol worship and the family of idol worshippers that I'm from, I have to completely disassociate myself with them and cross over that river. And I'm using this now from the biblical lore of the story of Abram. I have to now cross over and completely disassociate myself with them and to make sure that I'm grounded in my pursuits. And even then, I have to qualify myself more. And this is, I really pulled that strongly from what Chief had mentioned earlier, as far as now, you being tested with what it is that you say you're looking for, because the Hebrew wasn't given to Abraham as it wasn't invested to him until he actually still proved himself, and then he met a priest. You see what I'm saying? So there's always a level. So very very much so paying attention to what we're bound to, and making sure that we can actually live up to our end of the contract. You know, we may qualify on surface to actually get a mortgage, but then can we qualify to maintain it? And that there's something that we have to search internally. Does our lifestyle qualify? Do we have the discipline to actually keep our insurances up, to keep our payments consistent? Do we have the wherewithal that if we have to change employment or something life changing happens like a divorce, if we signed on it with a spouse? So all of these variables, obviously they serve different meanings for those of us who are listening, who may be on different journeys or levels of journey. But certainly understanding what we're bound to and what we're born to, um, and how that affects what we're looking to be bound to and born to is something also very important. So after that, I put myself back on mute, so it doesn't start the ramble.
All right, all right, all right. It was something that you had just spoke about. I think that what you said, simplify. And it took me back to even the segment that Master Menelek did on simplicity. And it took me back to what Emma Precious had opened up with. And looking at it, it says, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. How simple is that? Yea, yea, or nay, nay. Yes or no. If I ain't got it, I ain't got it. If I can help, I can help. But then what more cometh of it is of evil. So now, once I start to try to explain Oh yeah, well, no, because dot 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 dot. Now I might just be making up a story. And then someone like, I thought you said you couldn't help me. I thought you said you couldn't do this. I thought you said you couldn't do that because of, yet now you're going back on your word because you didn't, you tried to give a whole story, a backstory of why you wanted to say no, because you didn't want to lose a friend. Or when people get caught up in people pleasing. So yes, I can do it, knowing I can't. I can't do that. But yeah, I don't want to upset this person. So I don't want to tell them no. And this almost goes back to that whole thing, those who matter don't mind. And those who mind don't matter. if if you can't tell somebody no, or if you can't have some healthy boundaries with somebody, then that means you don't have a real friend. You're not having a real conversation with somebody. And I think it comes now. It's a matter of one saying, you know what, am I saying yes or am I saying no because of the boundaries that I have, or am I in my comfort zone? Or do I need to be stretched so I can now move out of this comfort zone? Or do I stay here in my comfort zone because, you know, I'm nervous of maybe I'm not capable of getting that done. But when one starts that out, have that contract with their creator and coming from a place of abundance and knowing that this creator is, is going to honor his promise to me. So now I'm going to honor my promises to everybody else. Well, then it doesn't matter if I feel like I'm going to lose friends. It doesn't matter if I feel like I'm going to lose something because ultimately the only thing that matters is the contract that I have with my creator and the faith in it. And those who then will start to have the same contract with the creator, kind of what he was speaking of. I don't know how he remembers all of those, but yeah, when you're around people, you're around people who have the same oaths and the same contracts. Now it's like, okay, I don't want to let any of them down because now they're reflecting the creator as well. But it's like when one starts to get away from the simplicity of just saying yes, I can't, or saying no, and then all of a sudden the gray area enters where it's like, I'm gonna try. You're gonna try? I mean, either you can or you can't. Either you will or you won't. But trying is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and read this. I'm gonna try and be a part of this community. I'm gonna try and do it. Trying is like I got one foot in, I got one foot out. So I'm not really putting myself on the line for saying, yes, I'm committing. I'm not going to really upset anybody by saying, no, I can't do it. And I'm not really going to let myself down because I tried. I mean, I did get the book, right? I did get on the line, right? So I tried, as opposed to, no, I'm going all in and I got to honor my word and I'm going to put myself on the line and know that I'm going to now rise up and do what I said that I was going to do. So, and it's just something as simple as yay, yay, or nay, nay. Yes, I can, or no, I can't. And then honoring that at the end of it. So, yeah, that's what I want
Give thanks, Aki Zach. We were definitely on riding that same wave because I wrote the word simplicity down and then drew an arrow back up to my notes to our oath should be yes or no. Um, Otherwise, demons are being summoned through those words. Um, and so, yeah, you've already thoroughly expounded upon that. Um, and only as you can. Um, Keeping it simple, right? It just sometimes it's so hard. We imagine, I should say, I have felt that it is so hard to just come with that yes or that no in the moment, even when I know that it's truth. Um, Making those, going back to something Abba Ras Kush, shared earlier on. Um, Maybe the yes to our youth, or our any child that we're making a commitment to, maybe it's not a yes. I know with my youth, they've gotten too many yeses. that it should be more no. And in doing that, it's like, okay, it charges me to be different, to do something different, to not have that long narrative after the no. No is a sentence on its own. No, period. That is actually enough. And this scripture then, giving that qualifier, that anything that cometh after that is evil, right? Anything that follows, that cometh, is evil. Evil is just like, oh man. So it's almost an empowerment. It's almost that charge, um, to stick with the simplicity of a thing. And to kind of go back into that, into a few passages earlier, it's like, be about the work. Let that be your oath. Let how you perform, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. So do the commitments. Don't say the commitments. Do that quiet, those quiet instructions. Be about those things. And even for myself, be earnest about what I can and cannot do. So yeah, there's
Mm.
so much here. Hmm.
Building on that let your speech be yea, yea, or nay, nay. I think it's important too to remember the environment, the realm that we live inside of, which is a realm of dualism. So the realm that we live in is either positive. Everything is going to be positive and negative. There is a gray area, but even that gray area is a mixture of that positive and negative, and that's the two rudimentary attitudes or posturing of the element of mind. The mind works in go forward, go backwards. The mind works in male or female. The mind works in yes or no. The mind works in I'm going to affirm or I'm going to deny. So when that scripture is being spoken of, let your speech be yea, yea, nay, nay, it's really speaking about the construct and the laws of the mind. And what that really is bringing you to is like understanding that within the mind, because you have these constructs of yay yay or nay nay, within that yes or the yay yay is the yes or the no, there is a power that's given to you inside of each one through the like you use the word earnest, but it's by what comprises that yes or comprises that no. So there is a possibility of faith, which is an unseen word, right? Because there's what we say, and then there's the unspoken. You know, we know like 83% of our communication is nonverbal, right? So it can't just be that 17% that actually proceeds out of our mouth that creates all of like we say, well, which is true. The word is the creative force. It establishes everything. In fact, like I said, all we really have for the most from the Most High is word. We have not seen like a hand come down from the sky and say, "You stand over here, you go over there, pushing this over." We haven't witnessed that. We've only gotten word. So everything that we have in terms of our faith and our understanding that there might be a creator above is something that comes from the universal beauty and harmony of a word. And those words exist through thoughts. And as we get into a space like, Iris is saying, I promise to love myself. In order to really be earnest about that, there has to be a training of the mind. And that training of the mind will then produce a habit of thinking. And the whole goal and what we're doing when we're trying to transform the mind is to create a habit of thinking that leads to pure thoughts. That's where all your power is. And I mean your word power, your thought power, your physical power. Like if you want to be strong and you want to have a nice, clean, pure body, then you have to have pure thinking. And pure thinking is the word of the creator, or what we also call the logos. that will clean your liver. It will clean your intestines. You know, because it washes over you, and it reestablishes your light body. It reestablishes your crystalline structure, and it literally makes you stronger. It literally makes you faster because it removes also the hesitation of human thinking away from you. You know, a lot of times that's what slows us up, whether it be in sports or whatever. It's that human thinking, you know, and we lose the power of the faith of our word and the effect that it could possibly have. You know, so with that yay yay or that nay nay, each one should be supported by a primary idea. And it's the idea that actually gives power to the speaker or whoever's saying those words, which gives a oneness of idea, and that oneness idea produces a force inside of the thought. You know, so you have this realization that comes. That's how you produce word. So we make our word by word, you know, and word isn't always vocally expressed. You know, like we say, yo, that's my word, or word is bond, or even when we say word is born. Word is born is critical. You know, of course, nine is the born number, but word is born saying is the same thing as saying Emmanuel, and the word was made flesh and dwelt among us. So if I say word is born, I'm saying my Christ is born. I'm saying what functions from my first eye reality or my pineal reality has just come into manifestation. Word is born. God is born. Logos is born. My bond is born. Christ is born. You could replace anything you want there with word because all those things mean word. So we make our world by our word, but we also make our word by our word because there's a silent word and then there's a spoken word. And the silent word is what creates the spoken word when it's done correctly. And inside of that silent word is the potential for strength, the potential for power, the potential for life, the potential for an idea to express divine attributes. And these things, these words that are silent first, you know, whether they're in the inner voice, right, which moves throughout our subconscious, that inner voice and that inner word becomes active in the body, and then it becomes received into the mind, like, you know, like sending a frequency, and then the mind then carries that through the body, and then in the body it becomes the subconscious thought becomes infested with those words, you know, and then those constructive words now have the potential to regenerate the body and to regenerate the consciousness of the body. And this happens just through meditation. Something as simple as that, you know, or some people pray. You know, we don't pray in our new, that's not something we do, but we do affirmations and meditation, you know, but it's through this way that you literally can renew your body by carrying silent words of construction throughout the body. So then now when you finally open up your mouth to send a word forth, that word is impregnated with the idea. So whether the word is yes, yes, or yay, yay, or whether it's no or low, you know, or nay, nay, either way, it's now impregnated with the potency of the idea that's been carrying and circulating and gestating inside of your body.
Um, I have a question. Would this be like the internal balancing of well, I guess yeah, your internal balancing? Because I was reading the 14 keys and it speaks about like the horizontal and vertical plane and how the regularity, which means like the middle point, would be the balancing. So would that be like your mind and like your words coming into sync, allowing you to move balance? I guess.
No, not necessarily, because it's when you're talking about the mind substance and the word value, they don't balance in the sense that they're happening at the same time because one leads to the other. You know, so when we're talking about balancing the horizontal with the vertical, we're speaking about balancing your human nature or your animal nature with your divine nature. You know, we could even say that's the balancing could also be balancing your feminine nature with your masculine nature. Your feminine nature is vertical, you know, and your masculine nature is horizontal, you know, or the journey of time is horizontal, and that's going across, like going from one point to another, right? How I'm speaking to you right now, Raheem, is horizontal. How I'm dealing with you right now, because I'm sending something across to you, and it's going across the surface of the planet. So it's dealing with the horizontal, or the horizon, or Haru's rising, right? And when I'm sending something to you, I'm trying to get the Haru in you to rise. What is Haru? Haru is the light, right? So when we're speaking about the horizon, or Haru's ion, or Haru's light, or Haru on, you know, for me sending something proper across your horizon over to you, it now willfully will create a vertical renewal and a vertical resurrection. So that's something that harmonizes almost at kind of like the same time, right? So that's like a balancing thing in a sense, But what happens between thought and word is it's that's a sequence. You do this, and then that happens. So we don't have words until we have our thoughts. And we don't even, or ideas, I should say, because we don't have ideas until we have thoughts. Ideas are a product of thought, and then it goes from your thought to your idea or your concept, and then that travels itself into a word, which then travels itself into the world. So this is why I said, like, your world is made by your words. So it's actually, that's more of a sequence of things, you know what I mean? But if your thoughts are perverse or mundane, then your word will be mundane. If you never have anything going on upstairs, like if you're boring, every time somebody asks you, hey, what you thinking about? Nothing. Then your world will be just as boring, because your world is created by those thoughts, and which then, create the words that come out. Is that clear?
Yeah, that answered my question perfectly. Thank.
Good. Cool. No problem.
I'll give thanks. Um, and I would be remiss in not mentioning that a lot of, well, some of what you've just touched on is covered in Mind, Heart, and Words. It goes into that idea of going from thought to emotion to, the expression of such. So it's a really good digital download read that gives more context, or gives more context to what was just shared. All right. So I think this discussion has gone around the world, and I. So
Corn.
I'm cracking myself.
Bada bing, boom.
Oh my goodness! I don't believe I said that out loud.
We do. We believe that's a joke that you would use
Oh
a
my
early
goodness!
'90s house song. Yeah,
Lisa Stansfield.
yeah. It sounds
Okay.
about that seems about you. That's about right.
Okay.
Irish on this
I
one. I don't understand. I don't understand that joke.
you well yeah,
Yeah,
well,
exactly. That was some ancient joke from her
it
freaking
was.
middle school dance.
It's not that ancient. It's not that old.
You know
I'll wait to
what?
Well,
hear if
that's
she's
because
gonna
y'all
sing it.
both the same age.
All
Yeah,
right,
y'all both
Zach.
vintage. That's why y'all it's not old to y'all vintage models. You know what I mean? Yeah,
No,
I'll
that's
wait
some
no
to hear if
old
defeat.
she's gonna
old my
sing it.
guy. And the video was in black and white. I'm gonna show you how old it was. The video was
Oh,
black
It
and
was
white.
Technicolor.
listen, listen,
Technicolor.
listen.
Raheem don't even know what Technicolor is.
Hey, I'm
You're
just saying.
scaring Raheem.
I like the song. I like the song. It took me back just. I like the song. You
See,
know.
there you go. Thank you, Ava Cruz. Come on, come through
It
with that.
Don't
has
encourage her.
to win. Oh yeah, there we go.
See, he knows it. So for the youngins in
Vintage.
the room, with respect,
Yeah,
Aki
well, I
Zach.
don't know. I don't know nothing about none of that.
It was a song. I want to say in the early 2000s, perhaps.
No,
I
was
don't think it
not the
was the
early two.
90s.
Come on,
Come
stop playing.
on, come
She had
on.
a bob.
You know you're wrong with
Yeah,
that one. That was
exactly.
the 90s now. Come on.
Exactly. You
Got out
almost
of this
got
one.
out of this one.
It was
Lying.
a song.
No, that song came out like in 1990,
Oh
1991,
my
something like so it's
God.
like a
Yep,
30
because
years
I
old.
That song came up before Babyface even left the Dell. You feel me?
Okay. It's an old song. I've been around the world and I. That's it. That
Hmm.
was all I was
She
saying.
ain't talking about the Mason Puffy version
No,
in the
no, no,
big.
not been around with the puffy jackets and the no,
Yeah,
not
she ain't
that
talking
one.
about that. She
Not
talking about
that
the
one.
original, the OG.
Yeah, that song came out when BET came out. That's like Donnie Simpson was era.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. All right. I get it. I aged
they
myself.
did premiere that on video, so I do remember that.
Oh my God!
You know
You
what?
shouldn't even say anything. This is your fault.
This is my fault. We're gonna make a hard left. I do have a question. Excuse me. Um, the question is, if we're since we're talking about, our words, and Chief has really given us a lot about what our words really are and where they're even being rooted from, or should be what they should be even rooted in. It made me wonder when I thought about this, just as we can initiate a conversation with someone and kind of get a sense of their academic pursuits, if you will, based on sentence structure and diction and things like that, and their vocabulary, you can begin to make certain assumptions, perhaps. Do you also think that your words give you a glimpse into your level of spiritual maturity? Um, I think yes. I think a lot of what we've spoken to, is dictated by our ability to be authentic, or not, or our inability to be authentic in how we communicate, with how we communicate. And I guess that question even connects with what Chief was sharing about, so much of our communication, I think he said 85%, is nonverbal. And so what are we putting out there? And it made me also think about something in Mind Heart Words at the very beginning, where Chief says, there is no disparity between what we think, what we say, and what we feel. The biggest issue is an issue of control. And so I'm just like, okay, controlling what? It's like, okay, how do we gain control? Yeah, if I think about myself as a teenager and I think about myself now, the maturity is like impulse control, not saying everything that comes to the forefront of my mind. I still say a lot, but not saying a lot of it. Um, and just knowing, and or even taking that moment, right? There's in another text, we're reminded to think 7 times before speaking. And there's taking that beat to really assess, why do I want to say this? Is this the right time to say it? What is this even rooted in within myself? And maybe what needs to be said boils down to that simple, you know what? No, the only thing that does need to be said is that yes or that no. Um, so we can talk about it now, or we're at the 2 hour mark. That can be something that you choose to take away and think on. But I just wanted to offer that thought slash question to the space.
Yeah, I would um I would definitely say your use of words is a reflection of your spiritual development. And I also want to say that song came out in 1989.
You Googled it. Oh man.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I just,
Oh
you know what I
man.
mean? I want to just throw that in there.
That's like early
You know what I'm saying?
2000s. Early
while
2000s.
while I have the floor, you know what I'm saying? Before you try to like, because you try to laugh over me or something when I say it. So I just, while it was nice and quiet, I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, it came out in 1989. So yeah. So back to what we was talking about, the spiritual stuff. So absolutely. I mean, you think about what Barbara Cruz has said earlier when he was referring to Abraham, whose name was Avram, or some say Abram, because those who know the Hebrew know that B and that V can be interchangeable. But his name was Avram, And when he came to a place where he was able to reflect and understand the power of the invisible, the power of the unseen, then his name was changed, to Abraham or Abraham, which is often incorrectly translated. I won't get into all the wrong translations right now, but um, the bottom line is that it was Yahweh who said, okay, now that you've come into this understanding where you can see that there is power in the invisible, there's power in the unseen, and there's something that exists, because you were already, Avram was already the exalted father, by name, but now that you're able to see that there's something beyond the physical, then now you receive this new title. So just that within itself, his name was changed based on his ability to tap into a deeper level of his own spirituality. So I'll just give that little small short example. Let anybody say what they want to say.
Come on with it, Aki Zach.
Oh, now see, it, I was gonna say no. I don't. And here's why I think you can't tell where
Come
somebody's
on, man, say
spiritual.
no.
He's like, I
Yeah,
was gonna say no,
Yeah, keep
but I
saying
mean,
no.
after that, I feel compelled
Right, maybe it is no.
to
Don't put,
tell a lie
right,
and to
exactly.
use
Tell the
yeah,
truth. If it's
the
no, it's
demon
no.
in the space.
yeah. And I guess my thought is, I mean, anybody can learn some words and regurgitate them, right? Like I can learn, to say, soul and uh, all of these different things that might be able to hit somebody, but really, have they had any spiritual growth? I mean, no. And I think that even goes back to what Chief has shared earlier today with the wisdom piece of being able to let things come and go effortlessly, and being able to see when people want to now control their cipher with a yes or a no, or why can't I have this and why can't I have that, but yet they may be able to articulate their situation better than somebody else who may not be able to use those type of words, but just as spiritual as the next person, but not knowing what the words behind it. Even when people start to learn about psychology or something, and they have just an innate quality to just speak about the things that they can see, but then when they go to school, they might, oh, this is what you call that actually. Oh, I've been doing that this entire time. I just didn't have the diction, and I guess, to back it up. um, and I think so. I would say that's why I would say no. That just be when somebody is speaking, just because they're speaking and saying all the right things doesn't mean that there's spiritual growth, actual some spiritual growth there.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It seems
Mm.
you.
Oh,
Uh-oh, go ahead, Chief.
well, all right. I mean, if you wanted to, but so I would say I'll just I'll say it quick. I'll reiterate what I said earlier. Actually, there is speaking and then there's words. So what you're referring to is what somebody's speaking. But again, if 83% of our communication is nonverbal, there is a casting out of words that happens after there is a cultivation of thoughts. That cultivation of thoughts is actually words. So, like one of the things I said earlier is that words make words. A man or a woman, their words make their words as well as make their world. So, it is through the thoughts, the culmination of your thoughts into what we call an idea. And keep in mind that when you're talking about the word, especially from a Hebraic or a scriptural point of view, word is not translated as what's spoken per se, but conduct. So it's not just enough to say a particular thing, but your conduct is actually your word. So like when we hear like faith come by hearing and hearing come by the word of God. Faith comes by hearing, and faith, the walk or the knowing in the invisible comes by the word of God or the conduct of God. So when you begin to strive as the Most High is, then your faith gains. So That's why certain people can say things and they have no power behind them. They have no heft to them because you can tell, like, your words are not matching your vibrations. Well, where do our vibes come from? Our vibes come from the thoughts. This is the same thing I said earlier. When you have that body of thoughts that are circulating through your body, and they're purifying, when those thoughts are pure, whether they're pure or impure, either way, they're going to saturate your body, right? So you regain a new body, a new light body. This is literally a body that has a new flow of electricity going through it when your thoughts are pure. So it's through the purity of thoughts and those and that logos or that word. Now remember, the word is God. So that pure thinking becomes word, but it becomes unspoken word. And the word is God. So pure thinking becomes God that now travels all throughout your body, creating your body, renewing your body into a crystalline form. So by the time you speak, you're speaking out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So the abundance of the heart is what? It's all that flow, that crystalline, that liquid crystal of consciousness that's been flowing through your body that now finally expresses itself. It now finally comes out in this constructive form. So, yes, a person can emulate words that are being said, but you can tell because again, we're not just dealing with the 48 laws of power. When we're dealing with numbers, we're dealing with 120, right? So the 48 laws of power, any kind of system of manipulation like that, it's going to tell you just pay attention to the logistics of what a person says. But when you're tapped into a spiritual flow, when you're tapped into a divine flow, or you're even tapped into a mathematical flow, you're using your first eye. Your first eye does what? It sees Yah. So when you're speaking, I can see your words because I can see the spirit in your words. So it's not just enough to have the words. So I would say that when we say, well, for me, so I don't say we because this ain't my segment. So when I say words, your words change with the development or the receiving of a new consciousness, I am not just speaking about the words that are spoken out of your mouth. I'm saying your whole vibe changes. Your whole aura changes when you take on proper pure word, because taking on proper pure word is establishing a bond and a contract. The word is God, right? And my word is bond, so my God is my contract. So now when I bond with my contract, bond with my God, now my whole vibe changes. That's why we can go on any social media platform and pull up 5 to 10 different quote unquote spiritual people. And you know, Zach, because me and you do this all the time, we be laughing at them. You know what I'm saying? And
Right, right.
they're usually people that are popular. Because why are we laughing? Because we know, like, nah, that ain't you. That's not your vibe. Because that word is not alive in you. That's not what's really inside of you. Yeah, that's what's coming out of your mouth. Sometimes people try to repeat my slang and be messing it up. Because you don't have my flow, because I'm flowing from crystal that's inside of me. So like when you said earlier, Zach, like I don't know how he remembers all this stuff. I don't be remembering it. I don't remember. You know what I'm saying? That's why I don't write that many books. You know what I'm saying? And when I do write books, there's no bibliographies. You look at any of my books, there's no bibliographies on those books. Not because I stole the information, because the way I write books is I go to the park, grasping the root of divine power, I wrote on a BlackBerry. It was a BlackBerry with no service on it. And I used to just sit in the park and just look around at birds and stuff like that. And I would just type. I couldn't see what I was typing, but it was thumbs that had the buttons. That's how I wrote Grasping the Root of Divine Power. It just flowed out of me. Every book that I've written has just been a flow. There's been no looking something up or whatever like that, because I'm filled with the divine word. So it's a sea of crystals that just flow out. It's not quantified where, let me say this and let me think about. Now, yeah, am I careful with my speech and things like that? Yes, I use my brain as a filter to make sure that whatever I'm saying is vitalizing, to make sure whatever I'm saying is life-giving, because I want my words to express a love that has a unifying and harmonizing effect on the listener. But at the same time, it's not me. I'm not that smart. You know what I'm saying? I'm just smart enough to keep filling myself up with pure thinking so I can have that flow. So that's what I'm saying when I'm saying words. You know what I mean? Now, what people speak, I tell y'all all the time. Do not listen with your ears, listen with your eyes. So if I'm telling you that, then that's telling you that's what I do. I don't be listening to what people be saying. You know what I'm saying? I don't. Like, I watch what they be saying. I'm watching the vibrations and the spiritual energy of their words, man. But what comes out of their mouth is, I don't really care about that. That's only 17% of what's being expressed. I ain't mean to grandstand like that and all that. My bag, man. But you know, it's
Well,
an
I
exciting subject.
clearly, I just want to offer one brief clarification, a word from, the host. We did say that, exclamation point, just to be
We
clear.
said what? No, I don't think we.
When you said,
Mm,
yes, you said, well, we said no. I'm saying, because I'm not hosting this. Yes, we did say that. It was a we.
really, I don't remember you saying it. That's interesting.
You
I guess
know?
that's that memory again. I don't know, cause yeah, I thought you was talking about something completely different. You was quoting Matthew and he say nothing about what I was talking about. I didn't
Well,
read the book of you, y'all. I guess you had to go back and say that one again.
I just wanted to clarify. Just want to
Mm-hmm.
clarify.
Yeah, all right. See what I'm saying? How they be jacking my slang. This is what I'm talking about.
Just shining, just, reflecting light. That's all. Um, is there anything, Zach? I heard you unmute. Aki Zach, I heard you unmute. Is there anything you wanted to share,
No,
add?
I was just gonna say I'm walking with him. Because it's in a sense, I want to say you said once before you can start to tell where somebody is at, even when they're spiritual walk of just their manners and how they treat other people. And or even if somebody says that they have gone, I read the book or I went through, um, Sadulu House and I took it, but then still being, treating people like SHIT or cutting people off or being rude. It's like, nah, you're saying one thing, but you're telling me that you didn't get it at all. And you have to go back and do it again and do it again until it really starts to now changes the vibration of your inner being, that you start to move and people can now feel like, oh yeah, I felt that. Not to say that that's like, like always correct, but um, yeah, I so yeah, thank you for that. And with that BlackBerry, was you listening to Around the World on that joint when you was in?
Oh,
No,
come
it
on.
wasn't out. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't out in 1989.
No,
She was
no.
listening to that on a yellow Walkman with tape joint. You know what I'm
You know
saying?
what? I
The
was.
waterproof joint.
I was. When I did the math, I was like, oh
See,
man, I was in middle school when that song came out. I
she did not say middle school dance. See what I'm saying?
did.
I didn't lie. I didn't lie.
I was 13, y'all. Oh my goodness.
That's still old though, you know what I'm saying? 1989. That means you was fully aware and cognizant of
I
what was
know.
happening in the world. And we didn't even have microcomputers in people's houses yet.
Note the historian who has all of what was and
Well, I
wasn't
study. I
from you.
study history. What you going? I be decrypting hieroglyphs. You know what I'm saying? So I, I, I saw you on the
Oh,
temple
you saw
wall
me?
dancing all around the world by Lisa Stansfield. You know what I mean?
You know what? I might have been. I might have been. But on to, 2022.
You
All
didn't
right.
know what year it was, did you?
Yes, I'm like 21,
20,
22. Which one?
give me a calendar, quick, 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 quick. Get that calendar off the refrigerator.
Right. It's like, go on. Tell mama the date. What's today's date? Oh boy. Well, this was wonderful. Before I even think about closing out, peace, Aki Isaiah, welcome. I saw that you came into the speaking space, so if you want to share something, feel free.
Yeah, peace, everybody. Yeah, so as I've been listening to the discussion, I just have a question. So, as we know, there's a horizontal and vertical aspect of life, unseen and a seen. aspect as well. So my question is, when it comes to words, is that are words a three-dimensional thing where they have a unseen and a seen aspect as well? Because like you were saying, I think it was 17 or 18% of our words are verbal, but most of our language that we're speaking is, body language, or it's something else. So that leads me to ask, is there a seen and unseen aspect to words?
I don't know how that would lead you to ask when you literally just explained the answer.
Did I?
So
You did,
just
you
Did
did,
explain the
brother.
answer. What are you
You did,
asking?
you did, brother.
Yeah, you just explained your whole answer.
okay, so okay, so there is a
Just say your
yeah, you're
answer
right.
again. Like,
You you
that's
right.
Right.
I did explain
Put an
that.
exclamation point on it, brother.
right. Exactly. Take the question mark off for the exclamation point and take
Yeah,
the.
just yeah.
You just said the whole joint. Like, yeah, 17%. Like, yeah, it's there's the spoken and the unspoken. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know where else to go from here on this one because you said everything. That's it.
Okay, got you. All right,
Yeah.
so yeah, disregard the question and just add that to the breakdown and what was said.
There you go. There's the mic drop. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Give thanks for that. I think unless there's anything else, that's a perfect closure. Our words do make our world. So with that, I give thanks for the space and the shared laughter. Come on through, Alba Cruz. I see you.
Yeah, man. Just one last thing with regards to like words creating a reality. I often remember, I think it would have been maybe about 3 years ago, when Chief was coming out of the self actualization. I'll dare to say tour, but he had a number of segments speaking about self actualization, where he often spoke about our thoughts. We have a dirty mind and a dirty spirit, so hence, obviously, the things that we create will take take root from those same shapes. So, cleaning our thoughts is a very important thing. The type of indulgences that we bound and bond ourselves to, as far as what we're looking to become air likes with, is something I'll definitely leave everyone with in this regard. Spending some time with really making determination what you want your reality to look like, as far as what you want to model. And, for those who are not a part of the Anu Life Global Ministries, I'll certainly say look at the old segments, Shema Anu, and I'm sure this would be something that you see that you would want to embrace. And, come on board, man.
Give thanks. Give thanks, Alba Cruz. Yes, absolutely. So I'll just go ahead and close out if there isn't anything else, and just again offering thanks to you all for contributing and sharing space today. Um, So there is Anu Radio, which is a phenomenal mix of message and music that is orchestrated by Akoti Shamanique. Every Yom Rishon, which is again is first day, or every Sunday at 9 a.m. on Clubhouse, and there are replays. So if you go to Anu Radio and begin to follow that, follow that. Is it a group? I don't even know what you call it here in Clubhouse land, but just follow her on over there.
It's a
Um,
room.
a
Follow the room.
room. Thank you. A
Hmm.
room. Yes. I mean, I'm old, right? Clearly,
Hey,
clearly.
Mama Vinny. It's all good. Vinny for
I'm
short.
like, join on the party line. I don't know what you call it, baby. Okay, so there's that. There's also Honor Youth Initiative, which is something that we're really excited about. You can actually go to honorlifeglobal.org and begin to explore information about what Anu Youth Initiative will be. It's coming this summer. It's where we will open up space and offer classes to everyone, not just, the children within Anu currently, but all youth, just around their history and the truth about our history. Pardon the noise if you hear anything in the background. Um, there's also the opportunity to pursue sponsorship if you'd like to become a member of Anu Life Global Ministries. You can also go to the website and be sponsored by one of us, actually, and be supported through the orientation and reformation experience of becoming Anu. The musical selection, I think I noticed that Akoti Shamanique shared it already in the chat. That was Chief Yuya. And all of his music can be found on your streaming platforms. So give thanks and have a beautiful, strong, everyone. Peace.
Peace. Thank you for the session.
Give thanks.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.